we're going to demonstrate a cranial nerve exam. Well, I have two patients here with me today, Xenia and Doug, or maybe one patient. So we're going to start with cranial nerve 1, the olfactory nerve. And you can simply ask your patient if they've had any decreased sense of smell, or you can have the patient close their eyes and place something under their nose for them to identify, preferably something of a pleasant smell, like a vanilla extract, and not something unpleasant like a dirty diaper. Next is cranial nerve 2, the optic nerve. You can do a visual acuity test, having the patient stand a fixed distance from the Snellen chart and cover each eye individually and read the lowest line that they're able to. Next, you can do a visual field test. So have the patient cover one eye. I cover the same or directly across from them and compare their visual fields to mine, which we would assume are normal. So tell me, looking directly at my nose, tell me how many fingers?
3.
Good. How many fingers?
4.
Good. And then we switch to the other side. How many fingers?
4.
Good. How many?
3.
Good. Also, for cranial nerves 2 and 3, you can check the pupils for the 2-3 reflex. So you can look at the pupils first, see that they're the same size, equal, round. You can check pupillary constriction, checking for constriction of the ipsilateral and the contralateral eye. You also can do eye movements, which test cranial nerves 3, 4, and 6. So I can have Doug follow my finger with just your eyes without moving your head. Good. You can do an H pattern or you can do a circle, depending on your preference. And also, if you suspect an issue and you actually want to tease out which muscles are involved, you might want to do something a little more specific than just the circle. But that'll test for the eye movements. Cranial nerve 3 is also responsible for eyelid opening, which you can observe the patient doing as they blink. For cranial nerve 5, the trigeminal, you can check for sensation on the face. So have the patient close their eyes and touch. Can you feel this?
Yes. Yes.
About the same on both sides?
Yes. Yes.
Same on both sides?
Yes.
Okay. Here?
Yes.
And here?
Yes.
About the same on both sides?
Yes.
Okay. You can also do that with a sharp and a dull to see if they can tell the difference, especially if your initial screening raises any red flags. The facial nerve is also responsible for eyelid closing, which you can observe the patient doing as they blink their eyes. Facial nerve is also responsible for facial movement, so this is where we do some of the funny faces. So I want to have you make a big happy face, raise your eyebrows, big smile. Good. And then squint your eyes like you're mad at me. Good. And then puff out your cheeks. Good. And you can press on their cheeks to see if they can withstand a little pressure. Next, we can check the cranial nerve 8, the vestibulocochlear, for hearing. So this can be as easy as, can you hear this?
Yes.
And this?
Yes.
About the same on both sides?
Yes.
You can also do the whisper test, where you stand behind the patient and whisper something so they can't read your lips and see if they can identify what it was that you said. You would do each ear individually. If you suspect any issues, you can also do a Weber and Rene test with a tuning fork. Cranial nerve 9, the glossopharyngeal, is involved in swallowing and taste. So you can ask them if they've had any change in their sensation of taste, any unusual tastes. It's also involved in swallowing, so you can have the patient swallow and observe, and also in palate elevation. So this one we can observe by having the patient open their mouth and say ah, and looking for symmetric palate elevation within the mouth. Cranial nerve 10, the vagus, is also involved in swallowing, which we just observed, and soft palate elevation, and also midline uvula. So when we observe the palate elevation, you can also observe whether the uvula is midline, and that can give you information about cranial nerve 10. It's also involved in talking and coughing. We've been talking to the patient. You can also ask if they've had any voice changes or anything that might clue you into any difficulties that way. Finally, or almost finally, we have the accessory nerve, cranial nerve 11, which is involved in, innervates the trapezius, involved in shoulder shrugging, so you can have the patient shrug their shoulders. Good. You can also have them turn their head, as it innervates the SCM also. You can do it against resistance. Last we have cranial nerve 12, the hypoglossal, which is involved in tongue movement. So you can have the patient open their mouth, stick out their tongue, and move it from side to side. And I always like to do this with the patients. It's fun for both of us anyway. So that was a quick cranial nerve exam. There are several more tests you can do for each cranial nerve to tease out, especially if you suspect there might be a deficit.